Hey everyone, and welcome back to Small Screen Sagas. I'm your host Nicole, and today I'll be covering from Season 1, Episode 9, entitled Into the Woods. I'm so excited to finish this mainly because it's Mother's Day, and I'm like, I just want to finish Season 1 today and be done, and then I'll get on to Season 2 starting tomorrow. So let's get to it. I think this may be quick, but we'll see. All right. Let's go over Fatima and Ellis. So Fatima, everyone's kind of worried about this radio, right? Some people are like, it's going to work. And then others are like, pretty much if it doesn't work, they feel like that setback is gonna ruin the town. Especially Donna, all of them, Kenny, Fatima, Julie, everyone's talking about it. They're like, if this doesn't work, I feel like this is going to ruin everyone's spirits and it's going to be taking 3 steps back. So Fatima's talking to Ellis and she's like, I'm excited if we get to go home. But at the same time, she's kind of nervous because she's like, this is the only place I've known you. We've only known each other in this world. How will it work when we can actually go out at night and go out to actual real bars and go to real restaurants and real diners and stuff like that? So she's kind of nervous on how their relationship dynamic will be if they do make it out of here. And she also does make a pretty good point. She's like, how do we go back now? Like, what do you tell people when we go back? And I mentioned that this show has a lot of feelings of loss. There's people that worked on Lost that's working on this show. And that is something that they brought up in Lost. Like, how do we go back after this? How do we tell people what we've been through without spoiling Lost that came out 15, 20 years ago or whatever? But she's having those same type of questions come up. And she's like, we're not even the same people anymore that we were when we left. And later on in this show, in this episode, someone's talking about, I believe it's Ellis. Yeah, Ellis is actually talking to Fatima in the same scene. And he's like, yo, when my dad came home from Afghanistan and it's so different, like, is it that he's changed or the people's changed? And it's probably that he's changed, because when you go through something probably as traumatic as war or as traumatic as what they've all gone through in this town, your priorities have shifted greatly. What's important versus what's not important has changed dramatically. And some of the nuances and some of the little things that we do in the real world that's like literally does not matter, but matters to us in the regular world because we're just living in it, it's not going to matter to these people. It's not going to matter to people who come home from war. It's not going to matter to people who's been through a traumatic event or these people of this town. So they are going to be different, but I do think that they can still be able to live a good life. I was going to say a normal life. It'd be a good life back in the real world. It'd still be better than what they are having to go through right now. So I enjoyed that conversation. I was surprised to see Fatima worried because she's always just so happy and giddy and just carefree. But she's kind of concerned here because she loves Ellis and she's like, I hope we can still love each other in the real world. Then we get Kenny and Christy. They're both reading the same book. I love that. They have a little book club going on. He's reading chapter 6 now. She's reading chapter 6, and they each sounds like they read a chapter at a time and then pass the book back and forth to one another. One thing that Christy says, because everyone's sort of down. She's down about Eric, committing suicide, is that, hey, if you ever feel like you are that broken, if you ever feel like you are that down, please come talk to me. Please just give me that opportunity. And I thought that was a very meaningful conversation. Very serious, very sad, but at the same time heartwarming. The conversation of suicide, it's always delicate, but this was kind of showing that the other side, well, it always shows this side of what happens to the people that are left and how they feel. And do they feel like I could have did something, or if they only came to me and talked to me. So I like that Christy threw it out there. Like, she was cool with Eric. She would have never guessed he would be willing to do this. even though we saw Donna was like, hey, you look a little down, and he said he's cool. Actually, he said it's genetic. So he was still joking in that aspect. But Eric was down, and he was not able to make it, and ended up taking himself out of the game. But Kenny and Christy having that conversation and hugging was very nice, very sweet. Which brings us to Donna. Donna's having it hard. We thought she was having it hard right now because of Eric and everything just happened, at the Colony House. But she tells Kenny, I'm grieving what we lost because we were so close to making this thing real and just this being our life. And I believe that the setback of if this radio doesn't work is going to be detrimental to the community. And so she's grieving not necessarily Eric, but she's just grieving the future of what she thinks will happen if this radio thing does not work. Prior to her telling Kenny that, like, that's what she's grieving. Like, when he's talking about wood, she kind of does have like a little breakdown, and she goes and stabs up breaks down the wood that's in the kitchen and everything like that, trying to get that. Once again, I do have in writing the word extras because we are in a locked town where no one's coming in and out. And I think it's very important to have the same extras. It may just be me, but we can't be on a deserted town and then we seeing different people. I should be able to recognize these extras at this point. We're in episode 9. I should be able to say, I recognize that guy. Yeah, we never heard him speak, but I recognize him. I recognize that girl we never heard. Literally every week there's new people I've never seen before. So let's get it together. Let's keep the extras consistent. It's very important when it's this type of show, when you're not just out in the regular world. You're you're locked sort of in a space, and we need the extras to be consistent. So I know some of you might be listening and be like, why are you tripping on the extras? It's important to me. It is. And then we have Jade. He's starting to doubt his plans as well. And he's telling Jim, like, if you just look at the symbols, you'll know what I'm talking about. Jim ain't trying to hear that. He thinks he's crazy. He's like, forget about all that. You want to find Victor, go find Victor. Like, we're trying to actually get out of here. And I think that's a problem with Jim. Like, he's dismissed Jade and several others a couple of times now. And Jade is telling you to look at the fucking symbols. Just look at them. And yeah, maybe Jim hasn't seen them, but he's trying to tell you something. Don't just ignore it because you think, oh, well, Jade is just Jade. Like, pay attention to what he's saying, Jim. So later on, when Jade is just going off on his, tangent or whatever, and Miss Lou tells him to shut up, stop complaining. And she's like, use the house as electricity. And that's when Jade does get a genius idea. Like, you know what? This might mean something. Maybe, yeah, the cords don't go anywhere, the wires don't go anywhere, but we still do have electricity, so maybe I can use the house electricity. He has an idea. We'll see where that goes in the next episode. And then we have Tabitha and she has her whole family involved. Ethan, Jim, even Julie's digging. And we see her climbing some stairs, and she starts to hear some loud noise. She sees Ethan's toys. A phone's ringing, a baby's crying, and the stairs can just continue on and on and on and on. And the next thing you know, she comes upon a dead Jim, or Jim upside down. Maybe he wasn't dead. And there's a crash, and it's a loud noise, and she wakes up. So it was a nightmare. But we know here in the world of From, nightmares just aren't nightmares. They have meaning. They have significance. We don't know what that significance is yet, but it means something. This nightmare does mean something, I believe. And then last, we have Boyd and Sara on their mission. So they stop first overnight into that tree or whatever wood plank thing where Boyd originally found the talisman. They stay there overnight. And then the next day they keep going. And we do see Boyd. He's marking the trees, making sure he knows where to go. Sarah's kind of questioning him. She's like, why do you trust it? Why do you think this is the way? He's like, well, why did you trust those voices when they told you to kill a boy? Exactly. That's all I can say. Exactly. Sara, you're a prisoner here. You shouldn't be questioning anything. Shut up and just do as you're told. No, I'm just joking. But she does mention, hey, they told me important things and things they shouldn't have been able to know. Like, they knew about the 2 cars coming. they said that Nathan and everyone else would die if I didn't do what they said. And Nathan is dead, and the 2 cars did come. So they're telling her some important stuff. But that's when Boyd finally, like, just lets her out of her handcuffs, because he says, hey, I've seen this town make good people do bad things. And I don't know what's going on with Sara. It's the same thing that's going on with Abby. Abby seemed to be doing that just all on her own, but who knows? We haven't seen inside of Abby's mind. We don't know if the voices were telling her to do that. So I'm not giving her a way out versus giving Sara a way out. If anything, I'm putting more strain on Sara, because, like, if you heard these voices, then go tell somebody immediately. Now, if Abby wasn't hearing voices, just her own mind, if this is really a mental breakdown, nobody else was giving her voices or giving her instructions, then I would say, like, she's less at fault than Sara. But we don't know the mind frame of Abby, and we're not going to compare 2 crazy ideas or 2 crazy actions against one another. So they find these bottles. They later on open it up, or Boyd later on opens it up, and it just says 1864, I believe. But before he can even get the bottles down and everything like that, Sara has another seizure. So this is now like the 3rd seizure we've seen. Ethan had 1, Sara had 1, and then now Sarah's having a second one. So it's the 3rd seizure we have seen. Let's see where that goes. But I think, once again, showing that Sara is truly hearing voices, that knows more than she does, is what this last voice says. When the tent, something's moving the tent, they survive their night, it's kind of scary, something's rattling around the tent, moving it very hard. If you're moving 2 people inside of a tent, you got to be pretty strong to do that. But she says this voice was different this time. It was a woman. She says she was wrong. And it turns out there are worse things than the monsters out here. And to tell Mr. Fish and Lowe's I was wrong. And that's when they start to hear a loud noise, like a blaring noise. And there's a bright light. It was crazy. Or that's probably, I think the moving around the tent might have happened after that. But yeah, so that's clearly something Sara wouldn't have known. We saw in the flashback, Mr. Fish and Lowe's is Boyd's nickname from when he was in the military. Only Abby or Ellis would have known that. And when she's saying, tell him I was wrong, remember in that flashback, she thought they were all dead and they just need to wake up. Or they were all having a nightmare and they just need to wake up. Whatever the case. So she's saying I was wrong. But even the bigger thing is she's saying there are things worse out there than the monsters. What could be worse than those monsters? We saw what they did to Frank, what they did to Lauren and Megan, what they did to Trudy, what they did to everybody. So what could be worse than that? That makes me really scared. I want to know what's going to happen. I'm fearful for them out there now. We only have 1 more episode for the season finale, so I'm excited to talk about that. Remember, you guys, you can hit me up, host@theverdictsin.com. That's HOST @theverdictsin. And I will discuss your feedback on the podcast. All right. Talk to you later.